Hey guys! Today we're diving into another truly horrifying case. If you want to support my channel, make sure to subscribe and stay active. It really helps me out. I'd be super grateful for that. Let's get started. Penampang, Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Malaysia. December 2021. When officers entered the apartment, they were met with a strong scent of antiseptic. On the floor lay the body of a young woman. Her hair had been shaved, her face was bruised, several teeth were missing, and her skin showed burn marks. Yet the room around her was spotless. Too spotless for what should have been a natural passing. Everything pointed toward aggressive treatment and an attempt to erase any evidence. The homeowners, a married couple, claimed they had just returned from a trip and found her unresponsive. But their story didn't sit right. Their emotions felt rehearsed, their words too polished. The officers immediately noticed signs that someone had tried to destroy evidence. The sharp chemical smell, the lack of blood, and the oddly rearranged objects all hinted at interference after death. This was the beginning of one of the most shocking criminal cases in Malaysia's recent history. A case where the victim remained invisible until the very end, and the offenders had long been seen as respected members of society. Etya Siti Nurashikin Sulong and Mohammed Amri Yunus lived in one of Penampang's upscale residential complexes in Kota Kinabalu, the capital of Sabah State. Their home looked ordinary, and so did they. In their community, they were known as a wealthy, well-mannered, and attentive family with 3 children. 2 of them, twin sons diagnosed with autism, were often mentioned by the couple in public, portraying themselves as compassionate and dedicated parents. In 2012, Etya gained nationwide recognition after competing in the 2nd season of MasterChef Malaysia, where she reached the finals. Viewers admired her calm demeanor, confidence, warm smile, and composed manner, earning her widespread praise. Even after the show ended, she maintained her popularity, and her image as a poised, educated woman remained firmly in the public mind. Outside of television, she had an impressive professional background. She graduated from the University of Toronto with a degree in mining engineering and worked as an engineer for Petronas, one of Malaysia's largest state-owned companies. This gave her both a stable income and a respected standing in her field. Her husband, Mohammed Amri, was a contractor who worked with the local government on construction and technical projects. In professional circles, he was considered reliable and efficient. Though not a public figure, he was known as a man of action, whose business connections secured the family's comfortable lifestyle. The family gave off the impression of being a model household, well integrated into the community. The mother was intelligent, the father financially successful, and their sons were raised with great care. Their active presence on social media, where they shared moments of family joy and their participation in charity work, particularly emphasized their commitment to neurodiversity and support for young people with special needs. This created an image of a forward-thinking, ethically responsible family unit. That image left no room for doubt among friends, neighbors, or online followers. There was nothing to suggest anything was wrong. Their sons attended school, the family lived openly, and no official agency had ever received complaints about conditions in their home. There had been no recorded incidents that might have drawn outside attention. On the surface, they appeared stable, respectable, and even exemplary. For a long time, this public image worked flawlessly, serving both as a shield against unwanted questions and as a way to build trust within the community. What no one realized at the time was that behind the carefully crafted facade hid a far darker reality. Nur Afia Deng Damin was born into poverty and from the start belonged to one of the most vulnerable groups of women, those forced to seek work abroad. Her path was typical of many migrant women from Southeast Asia, leaving rural areas in search of steady income and willing to accept nearly any conditions. But in her case, the circumstances were far more complicated. Even her citizenship was in question. According to one account, Nur Afia came from the Indonesian city of Bulukumba, located on the island of Sulawesi. This was claimed by her husband, Asghari, in an interview with a British news outlet. Supporting this version were claims that she was from the Bugis ethnic group, which is found in both Indonesia and Malaysia. However, contradictory information soon emerged. Representatives of Indonesia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated they had no official record confirming she was an Indonesian citizen. Malaysian documents that appeared in the case also failed to clarify matters. On paper, Nur Afia had certain markers suggesting Malaysian citizenship, yet neither country, Indonesia nor Malaysia, took responsibility for her protection. This legal limbo had serious consequences. If she had been recognized as an Indonesian citizen, the embassy would have been obliged to step in and provide consular assistance. But that never happened. At the same time, Malaysia did not classify her as part of a vulnerable migrant group in need of special oversight. Another factor that deepened her isolation was the distance from her own family. Nur Afia was an 8-hour drive away from her husband, with whom she had no stable communication. Witnesses later stated she had not been in touch for months. Her documents, including her identification card, were held by her employers, leaving her unable to travel freely or even seek help. This legal and social isolation became the key factor that allowed what was happening inside her employer's home to continue for so long. She was in a country where she was not recognized as a guest, a citizen, or a protected individual. That reality played a critical role in her fate. At the time of the incident, Nur Afia was living in the home of Etya Sulong and Mohammed Amri Yunus, working as a housekeeper. In reality, she was the only unrelated adult inside the closed space of their apartment. Malaysia's domestic worker system ties employees strictly to one employer. Both the visa and work permit are issued under a specific name, and without that employer's consent, changing jobs is prohibited. If a worker files a complaint or leaves without permission, they lose legal status and face possible deportation. This often leaves individuals subjected to aggressive treatment with no way to seek protection. In the family's circle, no one asked questions about her working conditions, and what happened inside their home remained outside of any oversight. Officially, she was employed by a respected household, but in reality, she was cut off from the outside world, deprived of communication, and without a recognized legal status. Nur Afia spent all of her time inside the apartment. According to available information, she wasn't even sent on errands to the store or asked to accompany the family's sons on outings. Her constant presence at home became routine, something no one viewed as alarming. The moment when a working arrangement shifted into a tool of control and aggressive behavior went unnoticed. The lack of witnesses, outside contact, and oversight gave the accused complete impunity, marking the beginning of a series of events that unfolded behind closed doors over the following weeks. Online, Etya was active in discussions about the rights of young people with neurodivergence. She posted about inclusion and used language familiar to advocacy circles. She was portrayed as a mindful mother who skillfully balanced her career, parenting, and community involvement, further strengthening public trust in her. Her husband, Mohammed Amri, appeared in the media as a supportive father and responsible man. In interviews and at events about autism, he was presented as an example of engaged fatherhood. His image complemented the family portrait of two parents who seemed caring, responsible, and deeply involved in community life. Etya made full use of online platforms to influence public opinion. After Nur Afia's body was discovered, the couple tried to use their image as a model family as a shield, appealing to their role as parents and sharing photos with their sons. Etya even emphasized breastfeeding, seemingly to draw sympathy. The first major breakthrough in the investigation came when detectives seized the couple's cell phones. By that time, they had already given statements, claiming they had been away from home for several days and returned to find the housekeeper unresponsive. Their account didn't sound convincing, but there was no direct proof, until digital forensics experts recovered deleted data from their devices. Investigators found dozens of videos on the seized phones, They captured scenes from inside the family's apartment. None of the footage was from hidden cameras. Every clip had been recorded deliberately, at close range, by the people involved. The videos showed moments of physical aggression toward Noor Afia. Laughter, mocking remarks, and comments in the background suggested that what was happening was treated as entertainment. One of the first videos analyzed showed the housekeeper standing against a wall, trying to shield herself from blows. In the background, a woman's laughter could be heard. Off-camera comments accompanied acts of physical force, slaps, shoves, and strikes to her torso. In another clip, she was doused with boiling water. She cried out in pain, while a voice off-camera referred to it as another lesson. One of the most disturbing recordings showed a man using a tool resembling pliers to pull out her front teeth. The audio captured sounds indicating no pain relief had been given, just cries of pain and sobbing. The accompanying comments displayed no empathy. Instead, they suggested satisfaction with what was happening. A forensic medical review confirmed the authenticity of the recordings. Forensic dentist Dr. Noor Ayat, who examined the injuries, documented the removal of 6 front teeth, along with bone damage and tears to the soft tissue inside the mouth. She stated that such injuries could only have been inflicted through intentional, forceful use of a tool. Alongside the physical aggression, the devices also contained clips in which the victim was placed in humiliating situations. None of the footage suggested sudden outbursts or unplanned aggression. Each act appeared premeditated, recorded intentionally, and seemingly kept to be viewed later. The files were organized by date and timestamp, ruling out the possibility of purely impulsive behavior and pointing toward deliberate actions. Officers involved in the initial viewing later reported that some of the material was so disturbing they couldn't finish watching it. Several left the room before the review was complete. All video evidence was sent for full forensic examination. Metadata analysis confirmed the recordings were made on the accused's phones. Investigators determined all incidents took place inside the same apartment where the victim was later found. Some files even had cloud backups, suggesting they were kept as memorable items. This digital archive became the key piece of evidence. It removed any doubt for investigators. This had not been a tragic accident, but a deliberate, sustained pattern of abuse, recorded and preserved with an element of gratification for those involved. According to the forensic medical report, the period from December 8th to December 11th, 2021, marked a critical escalation of aggression inside the home. All injuries found on Noor Afia's body indicated a significant increase in severity during those days. While earlier wounds had shown different stages of healing, the injuries from the end of the first week of December were fresh, acute, and numerous. The forensic pathologist confirmed that during this period, the woman endured intense physical force using both blunt and hard objects. The blows targeted her head, face, chest, back, and limbs. The nature of these injuries ruled out accidental falls or self-inflicted harm, pointing instead to deliberate and systematic actions. Particularly large bruises on her shoulders and lower back suggested repeated, forceful impact. Alongside the beatings, the same period brought burn injuries, thermal damage classified as 2nd and 3rd degree. Her shoulders, back, lower torso, and thighs were affected. According to the medical examiner, the skin in these areas was undergoing active tissue destruction, with portions beginning to die. This led to a diagnosis of necrotizing fasciitis. This condition develops when burn and trauma wounds provide an entry point for infection. The victim's body was overtaken by an aggressive bacterial process that destroyed soft tissue. The critical point came when the infection entered her bloodstream, triggering sepsis, a dangerous systemic reaction that can lead to organ failure. The medical review confirmed that her death was not instantaneous, but the result of a slow physical decline, made worse by the complete lack of medical attention. Isolated and denied treatment or the ability to seek help, Noor Afia spent her final days in mounting pain as the infection spread. Investigative materials revealed that for at least a full day she received no care, no bandaging, no pain relief, and no fever-reducing medication. Yet the apartment contained both medical supplies and hygiene products, none of which were used for her benefit. Instead, antiseptics were sprayed in the rooms to mask the odor of decay. After her death, the body remained in the apartment. Evidence suggested attempts to alter her appearance. Her hair had been shaved, her clothing removed, and furniture rearranged. These post-mortem actions were aimed at making the investigation more difficult. However, despite these efforts, it became clear that the cause of death was severe injury combined with infection, and that the events leading up to it showed a sustained, deliberate pattern of abuse. On December 13, 2021, Etya Sulong and Mohammed Ambri Yunus walked into the Kota Kinabalu police station on their own. They claimed they had just returned from a trip and found their housekeeper unresponsive. From the very first minutes, officers on duty were uneasy about the couple's behavior. Their account sounded rehearsed, and their emotions appeared unnatural. The pair insisted they had no knowledge of anything unusual happening in their home. They described the victim as almost part of the family, expressed concern, and said they wanted answers. An investigative team immediately went to the residence, but the real scene didn't match the couple's story. While they claimed to have found the housekeeper unconscious, the state of decomposition indicated she had passed away days earlier, casting serious doubt on their version of events. Forensic experts estimated the death had occurred several days before the couple's ahau at the station. Early lab results supported this timeline. Further suspicion arose when officers noted that the victim's head had been shaved and she was found without clothing. These circumstances could not be explained by natural causes or any genuine attempt at medical aid. More likely, they were deliberate actions meant to alter her appearance and conceal evidence. When questioned, both Etya and Mohammed stuck rigidly to the same phrasing, never deviating from their original script. This only heightened suspicion. Police initiated their arrest on suspicion of providing false statements and tampering with a potential crime scene. On December 20th, 2021, just 1 week after their arrest, the first phase of court proceedings began. Prosecutors argued they should remain in custody due to the seriousness of the crime, the existence of compelling evidence, and the high public interest. The defense, however, filed a request for Etya to be released on bail. Her lawyers cited her role as a mother of 3 and unexpectedly presented a medical document claiming she had psycho-emotional conditions that, in their view, would worsen in detention. This document had not been part of the original case file, and no such information had previously been reported about her. The judge granted the request, setting bail at 30,000 Malaysian ringgit. Etya was released and returned home to live with her sons. The decision sparked public outrage. In October 2022, Mohammed Ambri filed a similar motion. His defense argued that the investigation was dragging on and no final charges had yet been filed. The court accepted these arguments and also approved his release on bail. As a result, both suspects in a serious criminal case were back in the community less than a year after their arrests. Public reaction was immediate. Thousands of posts criticizing the judicial system appeared across social media. Users questioned the objectivity of the court's decisions, pointing out that the accused's social standing, reputation, and connections seemed to have played a decisive role. Journalists covering the case noted that none of the defense's arguments actually refuted the physical evidence, and yet the court, without disputing the prosecution's findings, allowed the defendant's temporary release. In response, organizations advocating for the rights of migrant and domestic workers issued open letters to the Ministry of Justice and the Attorney General's office. These letters highlighted the discriminatory nature of the case, where the victim had been denied civil protections while the accused benefited from substantial social influence. Media coverage included direct allegations of selective justice. This episode became a clear example of systemic vulnerability. The prosecution insisted on the immediate detention of the suspects, but legal maneuvering and the defense's strategic arguments delayed any punishment. After Etia Sulong and Mohammed Ambri were released, the case saw no immediate progress. The investigation was formally concluded, but no official charges related to a homicide offense were filed. Throughout 2022, the couple remained free. The victim's family, Nur Afia's relatives, had no direct legal representation in Malaysia, making it extremely difficult to monitor the case. As previously revealed, her citizenship had not been confirmed by any country, which meant she had no diplomatic protection. This allowed local authorities to move slowly, knowing that international pressure would be minimal. Meanwhile, the defendant's family continued to live much as before. Social media still showed pictures of their sons, mentions of vacations, and glimpses of everyday family life. Although some information had been made private, certain details suggested that little had changed in their surroundings. They were free to travel, continued to have access to resources, and were not placed under house arrest. Over time, public attention faded. News outlets shifted to other stories, and the case gradually disappeared from the headlines. Petitions and appeals that had once gathered tens of thousands of signatures stopped gaining momentum. This gave the accused a sense of security. Neither made any public apology or offered an explanation for what had happened. This continued until 2023. A year and a half after Nur Afia's death, the case was finally brought to court under the charge of premeditated homicide committed by multiple individuals. The formal charges against Etia Sulong and Mohammed Ambri Yunus were filed in the High Court of Sabah. The trial drew significant attention from both the media and the public, but the proceedings took place without live broadcast and with limited public access to case materials. Particular attention during the trial was given to the role of each defendant. Etia was presented as the instigator and organizer, the person directing the events and taking part in the physical aggression. Mohammed, in turn, was accused of assisting, participating in certain incidents, and helping to conceal evidence after the victim's death. In court, both defendants remained composed. Etia refused to comment, stating only once that she had no intention to kill. Mohammed also refrained from making statements, but his facial expressions and demeanor showed no signs of remorse. The trial lasted several months. Public attention would spike again each time local media published short summaries of the hearings. Civil society groups and human rights organizations continued to monitor the case, insisting on transparency and opposing any attempt to downgrade the charges. In July 2023, after months of hearings, evidence review, and expert testimony, the judge delivered the final verdict. Etia Sulong was found guilty of premeditated homicide committed with exceptional cruelty. The court described her actions as deliberate, systematic, and aimed at causing maximum suffering to the victim. Mohammed Ambri was found guilty as an accomplice. The court determined that his actions constituted active support for the crime and direct participation in the abuse. While the greater weight of responsibility fell on Etia, the judge emphasized that Mohammed's role could not be ignored. Both defendants were sentenced to death by hanging, the maximum penalty under Malaysia's penal code for premeditated homicide. The judge specifically noted that their actions harmed not only the victim and her family, but also undermined trust in the system of domestic employment and the legal protection of vulnerable individuals. Following the sentencing, the defense announced plans to appeal. However, as of the end of 2023, the verdict remained in place. Advocacy groups observing the case expressed relief that justice had ultimately been served, despite the lengthy delays and attempts to influence the investigation. After the trial concluded, a new, seemingly procedural but deeply sensitive, issue emerged: what to do with the body of Nur Afia Deng Damin. Nearly 2 years had passed since her death, yet her legal status had never been formally established. Immediately after the autopsy, the body had been placed in the morgue at Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Kota Kinabalu. It remained there for more than a year and a half because no country had issued an official request for repatriation. By the time the trial began, her body still had not been buried. Her relatives, living in Indonesia, were unable to travel to Malaysia on their own. They lacked both the financial means and the legal resources to arrange transportation. Advocacy groups working to protect the rights of migrant workers launched a campaign to restore dignity to the victim. They sent open letters to the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Indonesian Embassy, urging authorities not to let her body remain forgotten. Under mounting pressure from human rights organizations, Indonesian officials finally intervened. By the end of 2023, Nur Afia was officially recognized as an Indonesian citizen by origin. This decision was crucial for processing the paperwork needed to transfer her body and begin repatriation. Once all formalities were completed, her remains were handed over to consular representatives. In January 2024, they were transported to Indonesia and laid to rest in her mother's hometown. Although modest, the farewell ceremony carried deep symbolic meaning. It brought closure to a long and painful period during which her body had remained unclaimed and unrested. For her loved ones, it was a long-awaited moment of peace, not so much in the legal sense, but in the deeply human one. The story of Nur Afia serves as a stark reminder that lacking a passport can strip a person of rights during life and even deny them basic dignity in death. After sentencing, a campaign began to erase traces of the crime from the public eye. Relatives of Etya Sulong worked actively to preserve her positive image. On social media, they continued to share photos of her sons, with vague references to injustice, omitting any mention of the facts of the case. Some charitable projects previously linked to Etya were relaunched under different branding, but still involved the same people. Through these initiatives, the family continued to gather support indirectly while avoiding any public discussion of the trial or the victim. This activity was widely viewed as an attempt at media rehabilitation. Local media coverage of the case declined sharply, and comments reminding readers of the crime were routinely deleted from online platforms. At the same time, a new narrative began to take shape, one that framed the tragedy as the result of emotional strain, the pressures of motherhood and burnout. While this drew protests from rights advocates, it failed to reignite broad public outrage. Muhammad Ambri and his family chose complete silence. Beyond filing an appeal, they made no public statements. Despite the initial public shock, no major institutions took up the cause of protecting vulnerable migrant workers. The public gradually forgot about Nur Afia. Legally, her case is closed, but its core remains unresolved. Her tragic death exposed the vulnerability of people without documents or citizenship, individuals left unprotected in life and in death. The system that allowed weeks of abuse and ultimately her killing has faced no real consequences. Authorities have taken no steps to reform oversight of domestic worker conditions. Her family received no legal assistance, no compensation, and no formal recognition of their rights. International organizations stayed out of the case, public attention quickly shifted to other topics, and activist pressure faded. The death sentences remain in place, but in Malaysia, their enforcement can take years. Officially, the case is over. In reality, it is simply paused. What remains is silence. Silence about the victim, about the systemic flaws, and about the collective indifference. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.